The next part goes on to say you can issue a reward to any of Virginia's friends, acquaintances, or family that will come forward to disprove her allegations.
Okay.
So, look, could it cut both ways? Sure. I mean, we would have to be in the heads of these two individuals to say maybe they're trying to find people to refute these allegations, which would make sense if you're accused of this, and specifically relating to Stephen Hawking, or is it something that needs to get on paper behind the scenes? That we don't know. But I don't find this particular email to be dispositive either way. It's
tough to tell, right?
Much like in any civil case, it's not just about one or two pieces of documentation, it's about the whole picture and the totality of the evidence.
Vicky, what does this Stephen Hawking segment mean to you? I mean, does this ring any bells based on all of your research?
Well, the timeline of it is interesting. January 2012, so 2011 is when Virginia Roberts first talks to the Daily Mail or the Mail on Sunday in England, and that photograph of her with Prince Andrew is published. So this is coming very shortly after Virginia's allegations first surfaced. And I think that that is interesting because we now know that behind the scenes, she was also, it would take her a few years, but she would eventually join the other Epstein victims by 2014 in filing the crime victim rights suit. I also think, obviously, it's classic Jeffrey Epstein to offer money. I mean, this has been the theme of this man's horrific story, that he got away with it because of money. He couldn't have done it without the money, without the palaces and the island, the safe walls and the money behind which he hid. And, there's no question. One of my, the frustrating things that I found as a journalist trying to cover this is that I do think there have been private settlements that once, Ghislaine Maxwell was behind bars, there are other names floating around in the papers I'm reading where you do ask a question, well, hang on, why did nobody come to them? There have been private settlements, and I wish we knew more about those.
I can't imagine what this is like for you, Vicky. I mean, considering you started covering this more than 20 years ago as one of the first journalists, to now be, getting this kind of information, the documents. I mean, it's been 20 years and now this stuff is finally being made public. It's got to be a weird feeling. I want to ask Dusty in the control room really quickly, though, because we've had like a team of 10 people going through. We haven't been able to, obviously, now that the show started, continue digging through. Is there anything new, Dusty, that we can get to now?
I mean, the interesting thing is there's names being floated around. Good thing my lawyer, Mark Geragos, is on in case I say something I'm not supposed to. He'll defend me. But, there's names being floated around like Al Gore now and Michael Jackson and people like that. I'm another client of Mr. Geragos's. But what's so interesting is that I found a name on the list of somebody I knew. Not a famous person, and I texted him and I said, hey, you're on Epstein's list. And of course he said, I am, ? And he said, I've never met the guy. I've never been in a room with the man. So that maybe will put into context some of the names on this list, even as famous as they are, that a lot of people are on this list, regular people. He was actually my father's book publisher, and he says he's never even been in a room with the guy. So.
And I'm glad you said that, because I think we have to remind people of that there's names that we've already seen that we're not making a big deal of that other people have, just because the context doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, Mark, maybe you can weigh in on that. You've got a lot of high-profile clients. I mean, people knew Epstein. He emailed people about things, and they're in this big document dump, but there's nothing related to, like, sex or underage victims with a lot of these people.
Of course, and part of the way what you just cited, Brian, can cut both ways on the Hawking situation. If he was trafficking in information, there's been all kinds of speculation. He would blackmail people, or he had the negatives in the old parlance. Well, if that was the case, why would he be trying to disprove something? You would think if he had something that he thought was compromising, he would have, on the contrary, would not have wanted to undercut that. So a lot of this can be viewed in a myriad of ways, or at least least one interpretation points towards innocence, one points towards guilt, and usually that means that you must find somebody innocent in a court of law. Much of this stuff would never be admissible in a court of law. So if a prosecutor looked at this, most prosecutors would say, well, it's great, it's prurient, and I understand it's salacious, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't move the needle because it's not admissible.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of News Nation's fact-driven coverage.